It's time for another episode of Rainmaker for Contractors. Interviews and success stories with $1 million plus basement waterproofing and foundation repair owners. Discover how they market and grow their companies in today's economy. Hear directly from the most successful leaders in your industry. With your host and Rainmaker for Contractors owner, Bill Crawford.
Hey, welcome everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. Today we have an awesome podcast scheduled here. Rob Van Suilichem has joined us from Everdry of Grand Rapids. Rob, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
You bet. As you know, you've been on the show before. It's one of the more watched podcasts and listened to podcasts. And so I'm really glad to have you back again. But for those who haven't heard the past one, can you tell us a little bit about your business and what you're all about?
Yeah, absolutely. Name of the company is Everdry Waterproofing. We are part of a very large organization. We're throughout 11 states. I have been here since 91, this office has, and we cover Grand Rapids and Saginaw, Michigan. And then, like I say, we have 10 other states that we have locations in. We do full service waterproofing. We do walls, floors, and address the air quality as well.
That's awesome. So it's a lot more than just, stopping the water on one wall. You're offering quite a few different services there. That's great.
Yeah. There are three methods out there that work: interior, exterior excavation, or a combination of the two. Like I say, we're full service. We address them all, and we've taken it a step further by addressing the air quality in the home. More recently, in the past 5 to 10 years, we got into the air quality and what you're breathing.
For sure. When I was in the business, it was the Chicago market. And so we had about 90% poured wall foundations. In fact, super thick ones, like when we opened up the floor, 90% of the jobs needed a compressor. So that was a lot of work. So what kind of foundations are you dealing with in the Grand Rapids metro?
Probably 70% are poured. We do have block clay, cinder block walls, old Michigan basements, which were stone, and then they put a ledge in and purge that. And
It's always fun.
Yeah, those are a good time.
And 91, like you've been in the business a really long time. What do you attribute to your success to, year after year?
Being adaptable. You have to roll with the change, because the industry and the consumer are always changing. So if you're not able to change with it or even ahead of it, you're going to have a problem. So, some of the key things are: treat your people right, so they treat you and your customers right. Have a good marketing mix. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, kind of thing. We do trade shows. We do, TV, radio, billboards over time. That's been a real big help. And then, of course, internet marketing, SEO. When I started this, there wasn't a whole lot of internet anything. And as time progressed, nowadays everything really is internet, social media. Website has to be up to speed, and you have to have somebody basically taking care of it that knows the industry, and that's why I'm happy with Rainmaker.
I know a company that does that stuff. That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks for the shout out. I never asked for shout outs on the podcast, and I didn't prep you for that either, but thanks for that. Let's see. So, you bring up something really good. You need to be adaptable. If you just look at lead sources over time, like what's working better now than maybe something that worked better like 5 or 10 years ago?
Really, what's working better now than 5, 10 years ago is really the internet, online presence. Years ago, we did, it's kind of a dirty word, but we did telemarketing. We reached out to homeowners, called them up and said, hey, you noticing this or that? And then we offer them an inspection. We've moved well past that at this point. It's more of an online thing. Google reviews are huge. If you don't do right by the customer, everybody's talking nowadays on the internet. And also, once you get those reviews, you got to make sure you reply to everyone, not just the good ones, and don't be confrontational. If somebody has an issue, just reach out and let them know, hey, we strive to create good performance and a good experience. And if that failed in this case, please give me a call so we can resolve any concerns you have. I would say, like I say, internet, TV, trade shows nowadays, It's just about creating a good experience and having a good reputation so people reach out to you when they know about the issue. They can look anywhere online and find your company as the one they talk about.
Sure. In the 15 years I was in the business, we kept, you might have done this as well, but the first employer was 101-D. So that was the day phone room, and that was the first employee. And
Yes.
so after 15 years, we had broken 1,000, which means that we went through 900 telemarketers. So I remember having a morning and an evening, room. And then we ended up buying a computer system that would make 2 phone calls, and when someone answered, hand it off to the next available person. That was wild. Telemarketing was rough.
Yeah.
They certainly, it was certainly a great way to find talented employees that could be promoted to, like the rehash side of the leads and so on, and scheduling and so on. That was one of the great things that
Yeah.
came with it. But you mentioned reviews. So reviews, they really are a hot topic. I love that you mentioned so important to to comment on every review. That's wonderful. I love that you know to not be defensive. I got to tell you, I've talked to owners and they'll call me and like they're just livid. Like I'm imagining smoke coming out of their ears and their eyes are huge and they're like, the customer's a liar. They're a liar. This isn't even, it didn't happen. And I'm like, whatever you do, please don't respond on the internet because you're just going to go off on them. And, the customer, the reader always sides with the customer, and whether it's true or not, it's just happened. So I love your answer of like, hey, reach out to them. If you can't get in touch with them, tell them like, this doesn't fit with our company. We want a positive experience. Please contact us. We want to make it right. So that's awesome. Are you doing
Yeah, I did.
anything? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I did mention in one of the other podcasts that I've done with you is in the beginning, learning about your customer and documenting that really helps because, you can just talk about a day in the life with people. And if they feel, even if they're mad and they did a horrible review, but you come back and say, hey, when I was out there, I did talk with Johnny, or, I talked to your wife about this, and something personal, not something about the work, but just something where they're like, oh yeah, it brings them back to a moment where they did like you. And then you have an opportunity to actually have some rapport with them, and then they give you a shot to overcome the issue. Everybody gets complaints. It's going to happen. It's just how you respond to it. And I say respond because you don't want to react to it. You want to make sure that, you have to swallow your pride sometimes and say, hey, we're human. We can screw up too. How can I fix this? So.
Hey, that's pretty slick. You're using some psychology there, bringing back a positive memory. Nice.
Yeah.
I love that. It's really cool. So you doing anything special to get reviews? I talk to a lot of contractors that are like, oh, I have a hard time getting reviews. I'm like, well, do you ask? It's like, well, I don't know. I send an email out sometimes.
Yeah.
What do you do?
What I do, there's a couple things. Again, I do a lot of follow up with customers, so I'll reach out to them. If I talk to somebody and they're happy or whatever the situation is, I'll ask for a review. I have my foremen and service managers, when they go out, ask for a review. And some of them at first are like timid, like, I don't want to ask for a review. I'm there to service it. They're going to say something bad. And I'm going to say, I hope not. I hope they say, I needed a service call and Everdry stood by their warranty and took care of it. And, get a review from everybody, employees, customers. I don't pay for reviews. I know some folks do. I don't do that. If somebody calls in, catches me, and they're calling in to take care of their renewal for their warranty or something like that, and they're really happy about their system and they're just raving fan, I'll ask them for a review. And then if they commit to it, I'll send them a couple links, and then I tell them after they give me a yes, they'll do the review. Then I'll tell them, you know what, for your time, because it's valuable, if you go on and do that for me, let me know when you're done and I'll waive your service renewal for this year. Because I'm that confident in our system, and I'm that confident that, I got the answer first that you said you would do it. So I'm not paying for anything. I'm just giving you extra incentive for your time.
Kind of saying thank you. Yeah, I appreciate you not incentivizing your customers because you don't want to do that, right? Like
Absolutely not.
some of these places like Google, they've been known to take down listings for people that are incentivizing reviews. So
Yeah.
way to kind of know where the line is and not cross it, but do what you can to help the customers. That's awesome.
Yeah, and where I'm driving people as far as, when people do want to do a review, I have a couple sites. Google's always a big one. But the BBB, in my opinion, is the best place to send people to do reviews because they vet them. They make sure this is really a customer. They make sure that they did an interaction with our company, good or bad. And, if they have a bad, they send you a link saying, so-and-so reviewed, is this a customer? And you reply and, you automatically reply before you know if it's good or bad. So
Yeah,
I like that they vet them and they're actually 100% real reviews, because there's places out there you can get people to go do fake reviews by paying a company to set them up for you, and that's just not how I want to do business. Because
for
if
sure.
anybody says on Google or anywhere else that this is a fake customer, I invite them in. Go ahead and look at my customer files. I mean,
For sure.
why would I do that when I provide a good quality service? So
That's right. That's
yeah.
right. Yeah, I'm gonna, just because I'm passionate about this stuff as well, and especially because you're a client, but I'm a firm believer that Google is the number one place. But because it affects your rankings and people look there. But the BBB, that's huge too. And I do like that they're confirming and verifying that these are actually legit. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and a lot of them, the ones that when I give them a link to go to, I give them both, and
Sure.
I'd say probably 90% of them go to both.
Nice. I bet you they're probably copying and pasting the same review, which wouldn't bother me at all.
Yeah, that's fine. It's the same
Yeah,
thing. As long as
for
the
sure.
customer name's the same, whether they have two reviews out there, that's great. And now what I'm doing, take it a little step further, is I'm making sure that they mention the city name that they're in.
Nice.
They did my home in Grand Rapids and couldn't be happier, because when people are looking for Everdry waterproofing or just waterproofing, they're doing waterproofing Grand Rapids.
That's right.
So that helps that pop up on the Google search too. So
That's right. I don't know if you know this, but Google owns a patent that they could read reviews. And so we know that the part of the algorithm is that Google's not just going off of the number of stars that you have or the number of reviews, but they're going off of the sentiment of the review. So if you get people that are like, crazy wild fans of yours, and that could be seen in the review, they're going to give more weight to that review. And then you mentioned two other things. If you can get the basement waterproofing phrase in there and also the town that they're in, like
yep.
that's the ultimate, high level review. I'm typically talking to people, just encouraging them to get reviews. You're at a higher level where you kind of get it down to a science. I do notice that some of the companies are training their customers to upload pictures of their work, which is really clever as well. It's going to give a little bit more weight as well.
That's
So,
huge. Yeah,
yeah,
I was just gonna say that about the photos, because yeah, when you see a review and they say all the nice things and then they see, the work looks awful. That's part, I mean, I want people to show it, because if I
that's
see
right.
that work does look awful, guess what? I'm calling them up and saying, hey, I think we can improve on this.
That's right.
Come out and take care of that. If we left something dirty or something like that, it's a deep, dirty, nasty job, and sometimes you get that. So it's nice to get the feedback, because some customers are happy as can be that they got rid of the water, but they don't even care what it looks like. I'm
Mhm.
more like, what is seen is just as important as what it does. So
Absolutely. You mentioned earlier, you said you're doing something with air. I know there's plenty of waterproofers out there that, they're really content with just kind of doing one wall and like, well, that's where the water was coming in and we stopped it. Like, why do you do an air test and how does that relate to your services?
well, one thing that we kind of pride ourselves on is the full service of taking care of the entire basement, the walls, the floor, or the crawl space walls, floor. We do encapsulation, all of that. But what we've learned over the years is that it's not necessarily the water, but you can have moisture in the air that affects everything going on. So you can have
Sure.
rust caused by it. You can have pollutants in the air. You can have dust mites floating through the air, and if there's any mold spores, they can attach, and then you're breathing that in. So we actually, quite a while ago, actually probably close to 10 years, started. We got a machine called Air Advice. What that does is it takes a sample of the air, sends it off to a lab, and within 30 minutes we get a result back, and it'll tell everything that we find that's found in the air and have different suggestions on how to address it. A lot of it usually is based on moisture, or either moisture or just what's in the air. So carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, mold spores, just anything heavier than air. You know, a lot of folks, you know, say, oh, it's got a little musty smell. Well, that's an indication something more is going on. There could be mold, there could be, you know, a lot of different things that affect the air, but air doesn't have a smell. So if you're smelling it, something's wrong. And this thing comes back and it'll tell you different ways to, it might be as simple as change your furnace filters. It might be as simple as, you know, a little more ventilation, or it could be a number of things, but it actually tells you what's in the air, what you're breathing. And 90% of what you're experiencing is due to the moisture coming in and creating some kind of growth, whether it be, you know, rust, dry rot, mold, whatever it is. And so we address all of that. So if you have allergies or anything like that, and you have these things in the air, you might have sick home syndrome, and you're just sitting there breathing in this bad air and thinking, wow, my doctor's no good because I still have these problems. Thing is, you're living the same life, breathing the same thing instead of addressing it. And so we've kind of developed a way to check the air for one, and then address it with our ventilation and our waterproofing is the big thing.
I love that, Rob. That's really cool. You know, I have several thoughts after what you just said. I think we've all been to the auto mechanic with some issue, right? And they fix that issue, but there's other issues that they didn't look at and they didn't tell you about. And if they fix that issue and you have another thing going on, it's like we've all been there where we said, gosh, like, should they have checked that too? Like, I was just there. I spent a day at the mechanic and they didn't even bring it up. You know, and
Yeah.
they're, you know, small problem, small price, but you have a disgruntled customer where if you're in there and you're solving their issues, you want to deal with everything. You don't want to maybe stop the water, but they have, you know, mold growing on their something else, and there's all sorts of issues. That's what makes me think. But I got to ask you, this air advice thing, pretty cool that you could somehow send something to some lab and get a result so fast. Like what? So it's reading some kind of report. And so what gets sent to the lab that they're able to like read something?
Yeah, it is a report. To be honest with you, I can tell you exactly how it works, but I
All
know
right.
it takes a sample of the air,
Yeah.
and it actually, when it takes the sample, it digitally sends it to this lab, and then they basically, it shows what's in the air, and then they send a report back that says everything that's in the air.
Wow.
It's
Wild.
an amazing unit. I've used it, and I've done some things that it suggested, and it worked. I'm
Yeah.
in a condo myself on a 16th floor of a building. So it's not like I'm gonna waterproof my basement, but I plugged it in, and basically it had me adjust things, my furnace filters, and get a new exhaust fan. And then I
Okay.
tested again about a month later, and problem solved. I mean, it can be
Nice.
as simple as that. It doesn't tell you, hey, you better waterproof with Everdry today. It just tells you what's in the air. Here's some remedies, you know, suggested remedies, and you do with it what you will.
That's pretty cool. So obviously there's some things inside the machine that you're bringing in that creates a reading and then it's able to communicate over the internet and then it
Exactly.
reads it and kind of goes, that's cool. That's really cool. I like that a lot. It's more of like a complete solution. You're able to create, you know, a healthy home, a healthy living environment for a family to prosper and enjoy their time. That's great.
Exactly.
You know, you've been in the business a long time. I like to ask this question. What's a mistake you've made over the years that we could all learn from? We've all made mistakes. We've all done some
Yeah.
crazy things.
Yeah, having too much pride, maybe, you know, in the beginning, and I learned this early on. I started here digging ditches. My brother and I both did in 91, worked our way up. We ended up buying the company in 2001. And in that time, I mean, I had to learn more than digging ditches. I installed the systems, I did all the work, I managed the crews, I did that kind of thing, but then I had to learn the whole other end of the business. And here I thought, because I did all the installation, I knew everything there was to know, and I didn't listen as well as I should have. So my biggest mistake was probably thinking I knew more than I did.
Hmm.
And when an employee would come in and I'm teaching them, you know, training them, I wasn't as open-minded to their suggestions.
Hmm.
So over time, I learned that it's real important to listen to them, let them have room to grow. As some of their ideas have been phenomenal. Some bomb, but so did mine, you know, so
Sure,
uh,
sure.
Yeah, a lot of it has to do with that. Not having a good marketing mix. I thought because we did good work, that our reputation is enough. And I learned as I progressed that, especially in this area, because there's probably 20 waterproofers in this area, something like that. So, and most of them advertise. I didn't do as much because I was, didn't want to spend the money, I guess. So I started doing that, and I realized that you spend it to make it. And just the reputation from that, getting out on TV made the credibility so much stronger. Better Business Bureau, HBA, I sat on the boards for both of those. I'm still on with the Better Business Bureau. The things I've learned there have been phenomenal, but my biggest thing was you have to trust your staff. They always had a trust in me, but I kind of resisted some of the ideas, just thinking that, we have a corporate cookie cutter way of doing it. I know best, and this is what we're doing. And then, I'd lose employees because they didn't feel like they were growing. So that was one of the biggest things. Now it's like, if somebody has an idea, I'm listening to it, and I'm gonna research it and do the best I can to implement it.
I like
Basically,
it.
it's just about the people. You gotta let them grow, and you gotta modify and learn and not be above that. But having a good marketing mix, was also part of that. Um,
There's
and
about 10 lessons in there, I think.
I
I got
know, I
a
know.
bunch of it started with
It's hard,
pride and
it's hard to
marketing
come up
mix.
with one answer to some of the questions.
I bet. I bet
The,
there is. I probably should have
uh,
said story, but no, that's like a boatload of wisdom there. I got to tell you, I talk to various basement waterproofers, and sometimes they're smaller. And I could tell like they're such good guys. Like they do like really quality work, and they really care about their customers. And they have like, they'll have like 10 reviews and they're all 5.0, but they don't do marketing. And it's like, okay, like here's what I think. I hear you, and I hear how much you care about your job, and I'm looking at your website, and like you don't look any different than like 400 other websites. Like you got to communicate who you are, and there's no personality in here. Like no one would know that you really care about the customer. Like no one would know that. So it's interesting that what you run into. What are you learning about training employees? Like what's happening with
I'm doing more, I'm changing up a lot of things with the training. Before we had a packet, and we kind of went through the packet and did that kind of thing. And, it's more the experience of seeing it. People don't learn by what you read to them. People learn by what they see. So we do a lot of, you know, explaining what we do and then showing them what we do. We don't just say, for example, in our production department, we don't just say, hey, go dig this ditch and water goes downhill and, you'll be good. We actually show them how it's done, how long it should take. Watch them do it, compliment them, make sure that they know that, even if they're not doing it perfectly, compliment something about the process and
Sure.
make them feel good about what they're doing. The training has taken a lot of steps over the years with us and with the company in general across the country. It's by what we see, picture vision. You can explain to somebody, mold is bad, but there's no concept to that. Mold is bad because there are 5,000 kinds, all the different things about it. And they're like, wow, and the picture of it and just show them exactly what it is. And again, the training, I'm constantly changing the training. For example, my show staff, I used to, give them a little bit of book knowledge, have them learn some objections to overcome, how to deal with, anybody that, doesn't want an appointment for one reason or another, just kind of explaining the value, their purpose and value, so the homeowner understands what we're doing, and that's to save them money and stop it before it gets worse. I've actually taken it to where I set my podium up in my conference room now.
Oh, nice.
We're role playing the whole thing. Like I'll sit there and I'll do the show presentation, what we say at the shows, and how we address every customer that walks by. And I say customer because everybody is a potential customer, but
Sure.
everybody at the home shows that goes by, I'm saying hi, or I don't care if we say boo. I want them to stop, look at our booth and go, hey, Everdry, I need you. It's
I
just a
love that.
matter of seeing it. Because if you just train them how to do something and say good luck, you're not going to get a result. So and they have fun with it. Every now and then they're a little timid on getting behind that podium at first, but I'm doing it first and I'm making it fun, enjoyable.
Love it.
And then I have them do it. And again, I don't care if they're good or horrible at it. I'm complimenting something that they do up there so they feel good and they know they're appreciated and they know their purpose and value.
I love that. I so resonate with everything you're saying. I love the podium. That's just great. We're going to role play. I think role playing is the most powerful training tool that there is. Like we
Mhm.
used to, record people on the phone and then you play it back. Great. How do you think you did? I don't know. Usually it's like, I did horrible, right? Like, no, I don't think so. And you got to find something good. I love how you did this.
Yeah.
It could be horrible, right? But hey, you did this really good. And then, all right, we're gonna do it again, but why don't you try to do this? That's awesome. I always like, there's a couple things that makes me think of, I used to sum up the training to give it to them, tell them what you're expected, get it back, have them tell you what they heard, and then watch them do it. I think too often we say, hey, whatever, if it's production, I needed to dig this hole, it needs to be this deep, this wide. I'll see you later on. And then we come back, it's like, what the hell? This isn't it. Why are you taking so long?
Yeah.
It's not enough.
Exactly. And one thing I've always been a firm believer, because again, I started in production and time was everything. We got paid by the day, not by the job. So
Yeah.
timing was everything. So always hands-on when I was in the field, and I've kind of taken that to this. Like there's not a job in the building that I can't do or haven't done. And when I'm training somebody on any position, they're watching me do it because then they know I'm not expecting them to go beyond. And I have managers for these departments, but as the owner, I suggest everybody be hands-on because we're making money for the big guy at the end of the hall isn't my kind of business. This guy appreciates us. He's in here getting his hands dirty too. He's either doing the work or the presentation that he showed me, he's asking me to perform it, but he's doing it. How can they
I
say
like it.
he's asking too much if he's hands-on,
Yeah. I mean, I'm hearing servant leadership. And the other thing you said earlier is that you want to help your employees grow
Yeah.
and achieve more. You're trying to listen better to them. That's great stuff. Way to go, Rep. Hey, last question here for you is, I'm going to change it up a little bit. If you're talking to other business owners, you've been in the business like so long, what habits and routines do you think are important to have? Like, or, not all of them, of course, like, but what's one or two habits or routines that you think is important to have as a owner slash general manager that leads to success?
I guess a constant commitment to excellence, and whether that's for the customer or for the employees. If you don't have a routine, like for me, I don't work one day, take 2 days off, and then come in and say, hey, what's going on? You're not doing what I taught you 2 days ago. I'm here every day. A routine, when I come into work, I have my meetings that I do with every department head, and a lot of times I get in their meetings with their staff, but I do it routinely. If I'm out and say it's 10 o'clock, my confirmation meeting time, and I'm walking down the hall, my confirmer's sitting in here loaded with all the information that we go over every day, waiting for me. And then he gives me a hard time when I get back because the meeting's at 10, not 10:05. So just staying on routine, it shows respect, but it also, you can't check your results on a monthly basis because by the end of the month, you can't affect change because you're already there. So I like to do it daily or weekly, and then I know, okay, I got to modify this. We're this far behind or this far ahead. I want to modify this result, within the next week. We got to affect change and get a better result. When I come into work every day, I have a list next to me of 3 very important things that I have to get done that day. Those get done no matter what. Everything else is just kind of, we do the meeting, go over yesterday's results, learns what we're going to modify today, how we're going to affect change. And then that's shared throughout the company. The wins and results for every department is down my hallway. You can walk through and see whatever, I have outside my confirmation room. I have how many leads is the goal? How many leads do they actually have as a group and individually? Walk a little further, our sales department has their results on their board, their goal versus actual. You go walk back into production, their goal versus actual, and anybody can see anybody's results, and we encourage each other to get a better result, and we do that by constant contact and commitment to excellence.
Wow. Love that stuff. Let me just tee up a little softball question for you. So what's the purpose of like posting these goals? Like, how does that
Uh,
help?
they need to know, everybody has to be on the same page. I can't say, gosh, I really want to hit, this number this month. And if they don't know it, they don't know what they're looking to accomplish. They don't know, if you don't have it posted for their own sake or anybody else looking at a different department, nobody knows. I mean, you just run wild and rampant where if you have everything posted, everybody knows. And if your department's failing, people from other departments don't go in there and say, wow, you really suck in your department this month. They go in there and say, hey, anything I can do to help? How can I help
For
this?
sure. I love that.
The other
Hey,
thing
Mark.
too, Better Business Bureau, I had somebody say this to me recently because my commercial, I talk about that we've won 3 torch awards for ethics.
Nice.
Only company in Michigan that's done that. And that's in my commercial. And I had somebody actually say, if you do good work, if you're bragging about the torch award, there's something hidden. I don't
Mm,
understand that because I'm bragging about something we won for being ethical and doing the right thing. I have it everywhere. You walk in my office, BBB's right there. You walk down the hall,
mm.
there's something saying, you go in for an interview, there's something about the BBB. Every one of our trucks, every one of our billboards, all our commercials have that on there. It's a brand of accountability. I
Mhm.
don't I don't just use it to say, hey, I won this award. I'm saying the BBB, 150-year brand, doesn't promote me, but they vet me. They make sure that my reviews are legit. If there's a complaint, I work with them on it. It's an accountability thing for us, and it's listed everywhere. And I think that really resonates with people coming in because they're like, a lot of people I think try to go under the radar where we're transparent. We have everything right out there. Like you said, as far as the postings go, everybody knows what their goal is. Everybody knows where they're at now, and they have a plan when they come in for my meeting. If I walk in and my confirmer didn't have X amount of appointments that he's supposed to have on the schedule or whatever it is, he's coming in with a plan to do better today because he fell short yesterday.
Love it.
And you wouldn't know that if you just once a week have a meeting and say, hey, what's going on? Why are we 15, appointments behind where we could have fixed that by getting on top of it early. So
Great stuff, Rob. You know what's hidden from the torture word? Like all the things that you just talked about over the last half hour, all the
yeah,
systems, all the ways that you support your employees to help them reach their goals, like the team spirit, the like, wow, you're short, like, can I help? All the discipline, all the commitment to excellence. Like that's what's hidden
yeah,
behind that award. Because
yeah.
so that's
And
really well earned. So
yeah,
that's
and
awesome.
I got to tell you, because you hadn't asked this question, but I'm going to tell you because in 2012 we had a drought, and it was just a horrible, horrible year. We were struggling, and I learned something about all the things that I do for my employees and what I
Mm,
expect them to do for our customers. We basically had to lay some people off. It was, I think, Thursday, and I said, I hate to do it, but I'm having trouble covering payroll. I mean, it's a real
sure.
bad year. We're gonna rebound, but I have to do this. So on a Thursday, I laid some people off that were key players, and they knew, they'd get unemployment, and they knew I'd call them back, that kind of thing. So I laid them off, and then Monday morning I came to work. It was just Dave and I and Dave's wife. Just the 3 of us came in, and we're like, okay, we got to do what we can to keep this thing going. And a half hour later, I hear the door open. I hear the door open again, and again,
Really?
my staff showed up.
Oh my
I'm like,
gosh. I
I'm
just
like,
got chills up my back.
yeah,
Wow.
I'm like, you guys, you don't
Sorry, I
remember
can't
last
pay
week?
you. Like I let you go. Did I not
Yeah,
communicate right?
they're like, we're gonna make this happen.
Oh, wow.
If one thing in
That's
this business
amazing.
has ever brought a tear to my eye, it was that, and that showed me everything I did paid off because they felt it. They knew that I cared about them, and they cared about me and the company, and it
That's
was a
amazing. I love
breakthrough
that.
moment. Yeah,
I'd not known that. I'm so glad you threw that in.
yeah.
That's awesome. So I know you're involved with a lot of different charities. I'd love to know, like, what's an update on that? How are you involved in your community?
We definitely think it's very important to give back. I've been doing one thing is a polar plunge for Special Olympics.
Yikes.
We just wrapped up our 14th year doing that. This year, our team, and it's a team that consists of me, my wife, Everdry employees, and then friends and family. Some people from our campground joined us this year, but what we do is we raise money. We do a bowling fundraiser every year. We just reach out to friends and family. We have like a donation link. We do I'm sorry, and then we actually dress up in these wacky costumes. We do a different theme every year. This year was an 80s theme. I was a rock star because I wanted to do
Hilarious.
something that actually had hair because I don't. But we did that. We raised $18,619
Wow.
this year, but since we started this, we've raised 189,000 and change. Um,
Wow.
yeah. So we do that. Some other things that I like to do, I'm kind of a daredevil, so I do some different things. And I personally participate in anything that I get involved in. So like this, I do the plunge just like everybody else on our team. Another thing we do is for Easter seals, they do rappelling down a building. So I do raise money for that cause as well. And then we rappel down, actually it was the building I live in this year, Barnum Building downtown, just to raise money for that cause. It's kind of funny. We do a 0.1K for Duchenne muscular dystrophy every
Wow.
year. Yeah, I said 0.1K.
Point one. That's
Yeah.
serious,
Yeah,
man.
we start at one end of a local brewery and run to the other side of it.
That's
But
hilarious.
we raise money for the cause, and it's just a lot of fun. But I do a little bit of everything. I do some things for the veterans homes. I'm real big into special needs. You know, giving somebody a sense of inclusion is very important to me because there are times that, you know, if they have mental or intellectual disabilities, you know, they can't participate in much. And
Mm.
the money we raise, like for Special Olympics or Easter seals, provides sporting equipment, events, training programs, all at no expense to the Special Olympics athletes or their families. So that's kind of important to me. I actually got started in that. A friend of mine from school saw a video of me skydiving and said
Wow.
her son's a special needs athlete, and he saw the video and said, he's crazy, let's see if he'll do the polar plunge. And that's kind of what started the whole thing. And then he actually plunged on our team with us a few,
Oh my gosh.
times. And he's an awesome guy, Britton Appleberry. You know, he's came to the event again this year, and you know, we do it every year, and it's just a great cause. And to see the faces for the athletes, you know, watching you jump, and there's a lot of athletes, Special Olympics athletes, that do the polar plunge too. And it's just a remarkable feeling. And you got to give back to the community. I mean, that's why you're there. If you don't give back, you're
What are you doing?
missing a step. Yeah.
I love that. I'm all for like those cold water plunges for like a limited time. I think they're great, but I think what you're doing is a different level.
Yeah.
They might have changed it, but weren't you going into Lake Michigan in the middle of winter?
We actually were doing Reed's Lake for several years. They actually changed it up. Now sometimes it's in a pool, but there are plenty of lake plunges around too. But they built something called the Plungester, and they usually have it a few days before the event. So I don't want people to think it's cheating or you're jumping into a hot tub. That water's cold, you know, and it's really cool. What it is it's a dumpster that they designed to have. You jump in one end, walk across it, and then take stairs out the other end.
Oh,
And they designed it just for this. So they kind of travel with that around there's probably, I couldn't even tell you how many plunges in the state of Michigan, but I would say
yeah.
probably 40 or 50 that go on. And this is the biggest fundraiser of the year for Special Olympics. And several years and recently we took first place individual fundraiser. Our team's taken first place. In fact, we do so well with the fundraising, they put me on the committee for the polar plunge now.
Of
So
course.
for the last couple of years, I serve on that committee as well. And
That's
it
awesome.
it's just a really good feeling. And I've been able to share what I've learned and, you know, help other charities figure out ways to raise money without feeling like they have to go hound somebody and make them feel bad. And, you know, there's ways to do it. You can do it very passively and just, hey, it's a great cause, you know, if you'd like to contribute. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, I mentioned it to you one day and you said, send me the link. So you've
That's true.
contributed, you know.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's just you always got to give back. And you know, that's once a year, but then we do things, you know, throughout the summer and in the fall. And we're always participating in something to help somebody. I think that's almost as important as taking any money I earn and go traveling somewhere. I'd rather help somebody out with it. And I kind of got that from my parents. I mean, they were very giving and non-selfish, and I think that made them successful at what they did. So
You're like a model business owner, how to give to charity. That's awesome. Love
I
what you're doing
appreciate
there.
that. Thank you.
Hey, well, thank you so much for being on this podcast. You just shared a lot of wisdom bombs, and this is great stuff. I love your company. I love what you're doing, helping people and helping your employees. It's great.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You bet. All right. Have a good one. Take care.
All right, you too.
You've been listening to the Rainmaker for Contractors podcast, where basement waterproofing and foundation repair business owners and industry experts share marketing and sales information that helps you reach more customers. Please leave us a review on iTunes or your favorite podcast platform, and get all of our show notes at rainmakerforcontractors.com/podcast.